Good morning, everybody. You go ahead and try to find a seat somewhere.
Hello, Kenneth.
Hello, strange lady. Would the lady in the purple pants please sit down? Lady in the purple pants, please sit down. Lady in the purple pants. Security, security. Lady in the purple pants. Please remove the lady in the purple pants. All right. All righty, y'all. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song, and I can just hear some harmonies. So if you know harmonies, please sing those out, and let's all sing to Jesus this morning. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine. For thee all the follies of sin I resign. My gracious Redeemer, my Savior art thou. If ever I love thee, my Jesus is now. I love thee because thou hast first loved me and purchased my pardon on Calvary's tree. I love thee for wearing the thorns on thy brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus is now. In mansions of glory and endless delight, I'll ever adore thee in heaven so bright. I'll sing with the glittering crown on my brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus is now. Yay, good job. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, our trivia question goes with this song. And this is one that you can just take a wild guess, because nobody's going to know the exact number unless you are, well, I'll just ask the question. And I will tell you what Tyler guessed early on when I asked him the answer. Okay, so this particular song, according to hymnary.org, has been published in how many hymnals?
963.
963. Okay. Okay.
Is that high or low?
It's higher.
Okay.
Higher than that?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh.
Security. Don't need to call security.
Yeah. 1100.
Okay. Between those two.
1017.
Okay. No.
1,006.
Angelique.
1065.
Nope. No, but I'm going to give it to you because it's 1092. 1092. Published in 1092 hymnals, different hymnals. Yes. I know. When I asked Tyler, he said 97. I said, no. Goes way back further than that. All right, Donna. Give us some laughs this morning.
You already did that.
That is true. Not as good as her.
I'm going to take a couple off my phone, so. morning, by the way. Good morning. Okay, a police officer called the station on his radio. I have an interesting case here. An old lady shot her husband for stepping on the floor she just mopped. Have you arrested the woman yet? Not yet, the floor's still wet. Dear God, you gave me childhood, then you took it away. You gave me youth, once again you took it away. You gave me a wife. It's been years now, just reminding you. A woman outside the mall was crying. She had told me she had lost $200, so I gave her $40 from the $200 I just found. When God blesses you, you must bless others. And you've heard this one before. Did you know that, this is for ladies here, did you know that they have opened up a new store in New York City? Anyone's heard about this new store? It's called the Husband Store, and you can go there and shop for a husband. There's 6 floors in this store, but you can only visit each floor one time. Though each floor you go up, the value increases. You may choose any item from any particular floor, but you cannot go back down. So there was a woman who went to the husband store to find herself a husband. On the first floor, the sign on the door read, "These men have jobs." That sounds good. These men have jobs. Floor 2 says these men have jobs and love kids. Floor number 3 said, these men have jobs, love kids, and are extremely good looking. Wow, she thought, this is something pretty good, but I'm compelled to go on the next floor. On the 4th floor, the sign said, these men have jobs, loves kids, and drop dead good looking, and they help with housework. Mercy me, she said, I can hardly stand it. Still, she said, I've got to go on. She went to the 5th floor. These men have jobs, love kids, are drop dead gorgeous, help with housework, and have a very strong romantic streak. But she couldn't stand it. She decided she had to just find what was on floor number 6. Floor number 6, there is about 35,456 visitors to this floor. There are no men on this floor. This floor exists solely as proof that women are impossible to please. Divided we fall, which we kind of all divided this time with Republicans, Democrats, and we're voting and all that stuff. So I just found a couple inspirational things that just can think about, okay? Divided we fall. Year by year it stays this way, driving us apart. Day by day it eats away at our country and our hearts. Divided by our differences, we fail to see the other side. We're quick to get defensive as our hearts are filled with pride. It seems we blow off courses, my friends, from goodness of our heart, for we focus on our differences and and the wars which we start. Sorry. If we only could compromise just to find some common ground, perhaps we'd find a way to turn the ship around. As we always choose, when you're going through all of this, always choose between kindness and being right. But if you just choose to be kind, we will always be right.
Good morning. We are in Matthew 12. That sentiment is very important. You have to remember that if you don't agree with someone, it's okay. It's okay. If they have a different opinion, it's okay. Just remember the very basic part of all this is they're a person. Okay, and people are important to God, so it should be important to you too. So, lots of vitriol going on. Just kind of let it go. You know, people are important.
I'm not even not gonna change your mind anyhow, so.
Well, even then, my goal is not to change someone's mind. Like, especially when you preach the truth, my goal is not to change your mind. My goal is to give the truth straight.
Present.
If you decide, or something moves inside you to say, oh, that's truth and I should go in that direction, that's wonderful, okay? If you don't, that's, you know, your personal journey. But I think that that shouldn't be our goal, is to make people agree with us, you know, and that's,
I'm talking about the elections.
yeah. Well, no, but I'm applying it to something spiritual.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, you know. Sometimes you say agree, disagree. Sometimes I say, well, we're not agreeing to disagree because the point isn't important. You're important. Yeah. So, yeah. But it's interesting we talk about division because we're going to go into a little bit of division here. If we could please, I actually put 15 and I meant to put 14. That's my bad. I'm sorry. So if I could get someone to read, we're in Matthew 12. If someone could go from 14 down through 21.
But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. Aware of this, Jesus withdrew from that place. Many followed him, and he healed all their sick, warning them not to tell who he was. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Here is my servant whom I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldered wick he will not snuff out, till he leads justice to victory. In his name the nations will put their hope.
So there's a whole big bit here. Again, Jesus has been discussing truth. Who has he been talking to? Who has he been interacting with just before this?
Pharisees.
Pharisees. And Pharisees like or dislike Jesus?
Dislike.
Why do they dislike him?
Because they think he's spreading lies. He's not who he says he is.
Well, more to the point, yeah, not so much spreading lies, but turning people, what they believe, turning people away from tradition. And to them, tradition is what?
Very important.
Why?
Because that's what they've always been taught. And their Bible.
What?
Salvation to them.
Right. To the Pharisees, they taught that the only way to be sanctified before God was to follow every teeny tiny little law, and in addition to that, anything that they put, it's called a hedge. There's a Jewish name, I've got to look it up, and I keep saying that, but it's a hedge that goes around the law. And if you didn't break that hedge, like if you didn't walk more than a mile, then you would in no way be able to violate the commandment because you didn't violate the hedge. That's their ideal here, that you can't violate a law if you don't violate a tradition. Therefore, don't violate tradition because it's as important as the law. It's not. Jesus is kind of dueling it out with him here, saying, again, he brings up scripture, he says, I prefer a contrite heart. I prefer compassion over sacrifice. And sacrifice to them is a very big deal. Not the sacrifice of yourself, but the actual sacrifice. Taking something to be killed for your sin. Whereas God's saying compassion, love is better than something that covers sin. Okay? And that's what he's teaching, and they're like, no, the laws are so important. You know, driving 55. You drive 54, so you don't violate 55, and if you drive 54, you're breaking the law. Because you're going too fast. See? That's how they're kind of taking things. They take it a little too far. But then you read here how Jesus interacts with the people. How does he interact with these people as opposed to, say, the Pharisees? What's the difference in his demeanor and speech?
He's compassionate and kind.
Compassionate and kind. Does Jesus seem very kind and compassionate to Pharisees? Why?
because he knows what's behind what they're thinking and what they're trying to do.
And what are they trying to do?
Kill him.
Find fault in him.
Find fault in him. Okay. So, I'm not going to bring up last week as an example. It's going to be an example. So, when someone asks questions, sometimes there are different motives. Typically, when someone asks a question of their teacher, what is the motive? They want to know the answer. Okay. What can sometimes be the other motive? And I've encountered this quite a bit.
Oh, trying to show you up.
Trying to show you up or trap you.
Yeah.
Trying to trap you. They're trying to get you in a gotcha, a catch-22. What does that mean? Does that come from a movie or something? Catch-22?
I think it was a movie.
It was a movie, but it had there's like that idiom, you know, catch-22. It's like, it's 11 times 2. 11's a prime. Does it mean something? I don't know. There's some, again, that's my question. You know, I go before God. What does this idiom mean? What does it mean, a catch-22? It's a catch-22, whatever that be, that you're stuck. You don't have an answer. You go, right? And then you sit there and you feel how you feel after you've done that. Superior. You kind of go, I got one over on the teacher. You know what the best defense to a catch-22 is? And this is the one that I love because I love God and His infinite wisdom. My favorite one is, I don't know. Because that's not only showing my lack of understanding of something, but it's also showing my humility. Because I'm willing, my humility.
Oh,
Because I'm willing to say, I don't know. And a lot of people, a lot of teachers don't like to say those words. I don't know. And when people come to me, they said, well, what about this thing? I said, I don't know. I got to look it up. And they say, you didn't just say something? I said, why would I speak about a topic of which I, A, probably have no point of reference, but B, have no understanding of any underlying truth or foundational importance? I don't know. So why would I speak about this thing? Jesus, as opposed to Pharisees, has complete and total understanding of all things and all topics, understanding people's hearts, and he goes right to them. So when the Pharisees approach him with the catch-22, all right, let's get him with the whole Sabbath thing, and Jesus goes, really? And he ends that statement with the whole, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. They are not connecting it. So they want to destroy him because of how he's teaching people. And when the people come to him, he heals them. And then he even says, don't go telling all these people that this has happened. When it talks about the scripture there, my servant whom I'm chosen, I give my spirit, I love him, I'm well pleased. He won't quarrel or cry out. You won't hear his voice in the street. A battered reed he won't break, and a smoldering wick he won't put out. If I tell you that a person is like that, what does that bring to mind? If these are the kind of characteristics of an individual, what do you think of? Gentle. Meek.
so I've often wondered, why does he say at different times when he's healed people, don't tell anybody about it? Why does he not want, I would think he would want them to spread the good news. Because the time hadn't come yet.
What is the difference if I went into a church to proclaim truth, but everyone there knew that I could heal infirmities, what is their focus going to be?
On healing their infirmities. That makes sense.
If God comes and he says, I'm proclaiming truth to turn your heart towards salvation, and all you're waiting for is, he's going to heal my back problems, here we go, then you're not focused on the truth.
Exactly.
But if you know that he's a teacher, and you go to learn, and in addition to that, you get healed,
The blessing of healing.
how much greater is it? And it goes into that whole bit where he talks about the man who has an infirmity. He says his sins are forgiven. And they're like, well, how could you do that? You know, and he says, look, I'm telling you what's more important. The forgiveness of sins is greater than the healing, but I'm also going to heal the guy. We forget that. When we look at Jesus and we say, why does he continually say, don't tell, don't tell? Again, if Brad Pitt comes in here, and he's here to share about a good mission he's doing like in Uganda or something, and we're like, oh, Brad Pitt's here. I want his autograph, then we lose focus. So Jesus wants people to keep focus.
That makes sense, yeah.
Meekness, his humility. He wants people to spread the message of the kingdom of God rather than, here comes the healer. And I'll put this in context. When I was a kid, there was a guy who was very big on TV. And he had a coat. And he would swing that coat. Anybody know who I'm talking about?
Oh, what?
He would stand in crowds and he'd swing his coat and people would fall over. And he'd push people by the head.
Ernest
Angel.
The healer, yeah, Ernest Angel.
Whole bunch of them, right? The one I think of specifically is Benny Hinn. Oh gosh, but I watched more videos of Benny Hinn, and my mom's not here. She doesn't know this. Because I watched them at a friend's house. Because it was sort of like the joke. Right? Like, okay, watch this fool. And we've watched this, and even in my adult life now, you know, we have video and editing, and people have like put a lightsaber in his hands, and all these people are knocking over when he's doing this. And it's funny, but at the same time, it's not. When we look at someone who comes and we just go to something for healing, and this is our mission, we have to look at our ulterior motives. Every time we come into a class, every time we engage in discussion with someone, every time we think of someone and maybe a political stance or a stance on something in Scripture, what is your motive? And if your motive is not to love somebody, you're missing the point. If your motive in going into everything is to do a catch-22, or to show yourself to be better, or more intelligent, or better looking, or better by comparison, or whatever measure you have, that goes into the judgment part. Judge not, lest you be judged, for with whatever measure you use, it will be measured to you. And when you go into these things like the Pharisees are, they're measuring by Christ's spirituality, his obedience to tradition. So then God's going to judge them by that. And guess what? When Jesus says they sit in Moses' seat, and you listen to what they say, and you do what they tell you, but not what they do, they're breaking their own traditions. They're breaking the law. So the measure they use gets measured to them. So when you go into concert with someone, you know, when you're having a connection moment, and all you're thinking of is, man, how do I trick them? How do I stand them up? And I've seen this too many times in churches, of trying to make someone look bad, or make someone feel bad. That should never, ever, ever be our goal. Our goal should be to be so meek that we don't quarrel or cry out. We don't break a bruised reed. That's a reed that's ready to snap. It's bent over and it's stressed, and you don't walk by it to crack it, or a wick that's dying there. It's got the little ember. You don't put that out. You let it go out by itself. You're not causing problems. You're not creating tension. In fact, you're easing it. You're not making these problems. You're not stirring things up. In fact, Hebrews 10, stir one another in affection, spur them to good deeds. That's what Christ comes to do. He doesn't come just to make sure that people are obeying the law. He doesn't come just to make sure that people are healed. All these things come in addition to knowing who God is and wanting to love Him and follow Him and obey Him. That's why He comes. The Pharisees who were so stuck on traditions and laws miss the bus. People who come to Jesus because they've heard of Him, if they have come for healing, they get all that in addition. That's who we're supposed to be. Come to Him, come to church, be with the church because of all these things of who God is. And in addition to that, we benefit others and they benefit us. That's where we come from. And I love there at the end when it talks about the nations. Again, the word typically is translated Gentiles. It's usually the ones who are not Jewish. And at the end it says, none of these things will happen until He leads justice to victory, and in His name the Gentiles will hope, the nations will hope. I was just talking to David about that there's a difference between just following traditions and religiousness and having an idol and praying this amount of times and saying the right prayer and thanking Mary and all that stuff, and actually having real hope real hope. Not following all the little contrived footsteps. You know, when they uncover footsteps from someone from thousands of years ago and they're imprinted in the dirt and it got solidified and became rock. And you see these footprints, they're kind of really neat, or like dinosaur footprints. I think they're interesting because something stepped there previously. You can actually see it. It's not just a sign that says so-and-so was here. It's actually there. And you can walk in it. It's not just that. It's about being it. It's about living it. And in that there's hope. And we forget that sometimes. That what we do here is about hope. As Paul says, I haven't achieved it, but I have that hope. There's always the hope. And that's what we're supposed to look at. Who he is. Look to what he's doing. Look to what he's done. And then you put yourself in that. In his name. Not just the word, Jesus Christ. That's the English interpretation. Okay? That's the English interpretation of the Latin, which is an interpretation of the Greek, which is an interpretation of the Aramaic, thank you. I almost said American. No. The Aramaic, which is a translation of the original Hebrew. So it's not just the words. It's about putting into who he is. He's a title. He's Messiah. He's the Christ. He's the anointed one. He's the one that will wipe away the tears. He'll stand us straight from falling down, and he'll carry us. He'll walk with us. He'll lead us. That's the hope that we have. And we have it every time we meet. And we have it every time we pray. And every time we mourn. And every time we rejoice. In that we will hope because of who he is and what he did. And that's what we need to remember about his mission. And the Pharisees missed all of that. Does anyone have anything else for that? That bit there?
I think it's very sad that the Jews are still looking for a Messiah. They're still waiting for him. So many don't know.
It's actually interesting that, and I hate saying this, but a lot of Jews think of it more figuratively now than an actual person. So, like it's kind of what Christians did about a little over 1,000 years ago when you started seeing monks becoming a thing. They started to say, wait a minute, is Jesus really coming back, or is it just a figurative thing? And so Christianity kind of became more of a religion than a faith. And it became about doing the doings and not living the life. Well, the same thing with Jews. A lot of them have said, well, this isn't like a factual thing. It's kind of just a thing, and we just have to live this way, and this is what we do. What was that?
Just understood.
Just understood. And so it's like, oh, Messiah's not coming back. He hasn't come back, or he hasn't come yet. He's prophesying, whatever. So it's not really a thing. It's just a prophecy. And that's what's really unfortunate. Thankfully, we're not of Jews that were pre-Christ. We're Jews after Christ. And we're not Jews, but we're believers after Christ who picked up on his fact that he's Messiah. I've always wondered what it would be like to be a Jew and to actually have that faith in the one who completes who you are. That you are a Jew and that you've been taught all these things and you were brought up, reading the Torah and the Mishnah and kind of getting an understanding of who God is. And then you say, oh my gosh, Jesus fulfills that. I can only fathom what that's like. But yeah, I agree. It's very sad. So here he's going to fight the Pharisees again. And this I really like. Because Jesus doesn't quarrel with them. He doesn't bicker and go, well, you. He just says, okay, I like your point. Here's a counterpoint. It's great. Jesus isn't catch-22ing them. He's kind of turning themselves on themselves. He's saying, okay, you guys think you got figured out? Here, figure this one out. It's really interesting how he does all this. So can I have someone go from verse 22, and then it'll be a big one, go all the way through 29.
Then they brought him a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute. Jesus healed him so that he could both talk and see. All the people were astonished and said, could this be the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, it is only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out demons. But
Stop there for a moment. I want to point something out. why did the Pharisees say, this man casts out demons only by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons? Why did they say that? What's the reason behind it?
To show that he was not from God, or not doing it in God's name. No?
What are they responding to? They're responding to a statement. What's said there? That they go, could this be the son of David? People are going, wait a minute, is he the guy? Is he the one? And the Pharisees' response is, oh, no, he can't be. Because he's casting out demons, because he's the ruler of demons. That's their response. People are saying, wait a minute, they listen to Jesus, they see what he does, they see the miracles, and they go, wait a minute, is he the guy? And the Pharisees are kind of standing in front, no, nothing to see here. Nope, that's okay. Step back, it's okay. Again, it's funny, I think about the Naked Gun movie, where, I mentioned this before, where there's, the building behind him is on fire, there's zoo animals running back and forth, and he's a police officer who goes, everything's okay, nothing to see here. It's like explosions happening behind him. It's like, it's all right, go back to your homes, you know. And this is that, okay? People are going, it's a spectacle, that's the thing. And they're, no, look, he's a bad guy. He's actually a bad guy. So they say that, now go into Jesus' response, Karen.
Jesus knew their thoughts and said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? And if I drive out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your people drive them out? So then they will be your judges. But if I drive out demons by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God has come. Or again, how can anyone enter a strong man's house and carry off his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man? Then he can rob his house.
Okay. Famous words, a kingdom divided against itself, or a house divided against itself cannot stand. So, the Pharisees' response to, hey, this is the guy, he's the one. The Pharisees respond, no, he's a bad guy. Jesus responds to them. Why does Jesus kind of say what he says here about Beelzebub and the contrast he makes with their sons? What's he kind of doing here? We just talked about it a little bit ago. How would their sons cast out demons if Jesus is using Beelzebub? What's he kind of saying here? Okay. He's saying, well, then your sons must be possessed by Beelzebub or from Beelzebub. So what's he using here? We just talked about it a little bit ago. Catch-22. And that's their method of judgment. Christ here is doing exactly what he talks about. Their method of judging is saying, okay, so he can cast out the demons by Beelzebub because he is from Beelzebub. Do you really believe that they thought that he was from Beelzebub? Why?
Some of them do.
Maybe some of them. But do you really think they believe that? I don't think so. I really don't believe that they believe that. I don't.
It's like just their way of trying to find fault again.
Right.
Caught up in the crowd.
Right. Caught up in the crowd. The idea is, remember, what do they have? Brad Pitt would be a good example. So they're the Brad Pitts of their day. So what do they have that the normal person doesn't?
Fame and power.
Fame, power, perfect. Fame, power. Riches is a secondary one, but the one that people look to them for is the fame and the power. And if someone all of a sudden comes around, a meek, humble guy, he's not gathering a bunch of smart guys. He's not walking around saying, oh, a whole bunch of important people come to me and sit and dine in my house because I'm a Hollywood star. No, it's a simple guy going to the alleys and byways and talking to those people, and they're gathering around him. No common people are coming out of their houses. And they're going, don't I have fame? Hey, I'm here. I got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Jerusalem. Come on, I'm here. And yet their attention's being torn away. Again, I really don't believe that they thought that he was an evildoer doing evil. In my opinion, every time I look at this, or whenever I see that they're kind of saying, oh, you're doing an evil thing by this, I really see that they're saying, don't trust this guy. Because they're not doing it in secret. They're doing it publicly. Because if they can maim him and shame him, makes them look good. Oh, hey, we're putting this guy down. It's another one of those, hey, we're going to entrap him. Jesus uses the same judgment measure. Okay, let's apply the same logic, he says. Your logic is that I come here as a representative of Beelzebub, and so these are his demons, and I'm saying, hey, go away, we'll chit-chat later. But am I not ruining, essentially, their mission? If their mission is to torment, and I'm telling you not to torment, doesn't make sense. A kingdom divided against itself. And then he points even better. So if that's how I'm doing it, then how are your sons doing it? Oh, wait a minute. Now that hits him right here. My kid? Oh, you're talking about my child now. That's a problem. So he puts that mental twister right back on him. Let's apply that same judgment. That same measure you're using, let's apply it straightforward. And what's their response? They have none. Jesus goes on when he talks about if Satan casts out Satan, he's divided against himself. This is like if the Holy Spirit came and says, okay, you have a beautiful church here. Everybody, stop going to church. Stop believing. That's great. We'd say that would be foolish. That would be reckless. That would be ridiculous. And yet that's essentially what they're saying here. So Jesus is calling them ridiculous. And again, what is Beelzebub? Does anyone know? Beelzebul? Well, it's kind of a offhanded reference to him, but does anyone know who that deity was in the time?
I have a chief of evil, master of hell.
The word is used typically for like Lord of the Flies, which would be like a minister of evil, and Jews use that as they used a lot of pagan gods. They would say, oh, that's a reference to Satan or one of his chief deities. Again, that goes into tradition. They're not necessarily saying Satan. They don't necessarily want to use the accuser. They don't necessarily want to go down that road. They kind of want to keep it a little lighter. Again, because I think that in them, there's that bit kind of like in Acts 5, where Gamaliel is sort of, now wait a minute, what if they're from God? We can't oppose them. So there's that always a part in the back of their mind that says, wait a minute. I don't want to go too much, because the next part is extremely important. The next bit here, where we're going into the whole spirit bit, is important. I don't want to do that now, because it's going to end up being something very big. So, let's just talk about judgment. When we think of ourselves as Christians, what are some things, and I want you to be real. We're the family here. We're the body. We're representing the body. We are part of it. Sometimes we get away from being really honest, but let's be really honest. I want all of you to be really honest. I want you to search your heart and search your mind. Think about something, whether it's recently or in the past, where you have judged with a measure, not just judged judgingly, but judged with a measure that ended up hurting yourself. That ended up kind of in retrospect, you look back and you say, oh my gosh, I do that. Or I am that. The whole plank deal. You're trying to pluck the sawdust out, but you've got the plank. Give me some examples.
Well, I just did one earlier. Paulette and Tyler sitting here talking about the Bible, and I was kind of listening, and I told her, I said, now there you go, you're gossiping about the Bible. That's a good thing, but you're gossiping.
Well, okay. That's kind of funny. But I mean something real. Something real. That you were judging someone and it kind of just ended up coming back on you. Or maybe even something that you've done inappropriate judgingly, that you've completely cast aspersion on someone. Be honest, be real. say it first. Thank you, Mike.
We didn't hear him. What did he say?
He's driving on
Can I tell you a story then, Russell?
Yes, please.
Mary always has dinner waiting for me. She knows what time I get home. She always has dinner waiting for me. And she sets the table and, you know, when I come home, we'll sit down together. But when she would set my place at the table, she would give me this small knife. You know, I'm a big guy. I like more of a man-sized knife. But I said, okay, she just happened to grab that one, and I said, I'll deal with it, right? Next day at dinner, guess what? There's that small knife again. Okay, maybe she grabbed it twice, and it's all right. You know, I love her, and I'll do it. This went on for about a week. Finally, I said something to her. I said, you know, honey, I really don't like this small knife that you give me. Why are you giving me this small knife? You know what she said to me? She said, Wayne, that's my favorite knife.
Oh.
I love that small knife.
Hey, you got me right here with that. Hey, I'll tell you, if you ever want big utensils, go to Tyler's house. His forks weigh like a pound. You could hurt someone with those things. See, right there, I'm a roundabout guy, okay? Because I'm a science guy. My wife hates this. So when we go in a roundabout, I don't brake really, go into it, slowly go around it. No. See, I know how physics works, centripetal force, gravity. So when I go into those, you pick the outside of your lane, okay? Or rather, I guess the inside of your lane, because you're going to the right. Then when you turn into it, you're banking, and then you're turning around. So centripetal force is keeping you in line with that roundabout, right? Thankfully, we only go usually halfway, because then we're continuing down this road, right? So it's you, and then you go onto the inside as you're coming out. Very easy. You're hugging the curves, right? My wife hates that, because if we're doing 40, which the speed limit there is 40, and then it goes to 45, I'll be doing 30-something around that roundabout. She hates that. Now, a year ago, I was going through a lot of issues. Okay, my bipolar was hitting me pretty hard, and I was having anger problems, a lot of them. When I would get to that roundabout, and there would be someone in front of me who would brake really hard because someone was coming in the other side, I would smash that steering wheel as hard as I could, and I would yell and scream at that person. It was horrible. And then they would realize that the person was coming straight, and then they gently go through it, and I was like, let's go! I mean, that's why I said, let's go, really, really loudly, almost screaming. When I look back on that, I say, boy, oh boy, I wish I could just pop myself in the head. Because it's something, you don't know who that person is. You don't know where they've come from. Maybe their family member died in a roundabout. It seems ridiculous, but it could have happened. I don't know that. You're going down the highway, you're caught behind someone. Maybe they're in a bad mood themselves. Something bad happens, so they're driving slowly because they don't want to do something stupid. You never know. But we get so upset about things. In church, you don't love this one. In church, someone standing in front of you and you're trying to get out. Right?
Yes.
Who cares? Who cares?
You go down the aisle.
Go around.
The other side.
Go around. This isn't high school. Oh my gosh, Sheila and Karen are just stalking right there. I can't get around. No, this is church.
What about your seat?
Or your seat, your favorite seat. I do not know where to sit in there unless Mike's sitting down or Karen's sitting down. Then I know where my seat is. Or Rudy. If Rudy is, then I know exactly where I'm sitting. That's the area, right? I don't know, because I'm not going to count rows. My brain would like me to, but I know that they're going to sit in a different row, and I don't want to sit. And Mike and Karen go, what's that?
You did mess us up Sunday, by the way.
Did I? Because we'll go in, especially when I come in early, like with Christina, and I come in, because we don't have my mom with me, or if we're going in by ourselves, she's like, pick a spot. I go, okay, so I go in the region, right, of a spot. I don't know. It's one of those, you're comfortable, okay? We get too wrapped up in this stuff.
And it's fun sometimes to sit in a different spot. So try that
It's
sometimes. Go sit
scary.
in a different spot.
I don't want to sit, and this is me. This is a bad thing too. I'm telling you a bad thing. I don't want to sit in the far right side. It's a bunch of young people over there. I'm uncomfortable with young people. What do you mean that? I have to grow.
there.
That's been
Sometimes.
glory to God in that.
Sometimes I sit in your section.
You know what's funny?
Who sits in the middle then? Your age?
No, anybody. I don't. It's just one of those things in my mind that every time I'm around younger people, it's almost I'm missing something. And yet I have a lot to offer individuals who are my age because I've gained a lot of wisdom experience from people who are far older than I am. Or just older.
people do raise their hands a little bit more.
You know what's funny? When we sing certain songs, all the singing I can almost hear comes from that section.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wants to be back there. But there's a part of me that's kind of scared because it's different. And I don't know a lot of those people.
I know a lot of those people, and a lot of them are very genuine and
Right.
kind and caring and loving.
But me being me, there's always that part where it kind of scares me a little bit. And yet, a couple Sundays ago, there was a new fella here. I can't think of his name. With his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure which. And I greeted them right after church because I thought, has anyone said anything to them? And they ended up knowing someone there. But they were right there in my little zone, right? And so I made sure to say hi. Right. But think about that. If we're going to do that, and that's how we're going to do it, take ownership of that zone. This zone here is, I'm going to make sure that everyone feels greeted and loved. Right? What if everybody did that? Then everybody would be greeted and loved in that whole auditorium.
Then next Sunday, sit somewhere else and do that some.
You can do that. Oh, yes, you can. I used to back in Colonial Heights. I actually, when I was, especially coming back to my faith, really growing a lot, reading a lot more, praying a lot more, just getting back in the faith, I was always afraid, to talk to people. Well, I have anxiety. But more than that, just keep the cool, don't ever disturb anything. I like routines. Then the Spirit's like, maybe there's someone new here that feels how you feel. Why don't you go make them feel different? I said, oh, okay. And then by the end of the whole, greet one another and Christian love and fellowship, I think was the thing. By the end of that, they're playing the music and I'm all the way on the other side. And I got to come back. And a part of me really liked that because I got to see new people. And through that, there were people who stayed because one couple especially was like, you were so friendly and open and you constantly said hi to us all the time. They were like, oh, you must be an elder here. I was like, no, I'm just a deacon. But it's not because I'm a deacon that I'm greeting you. It's because I value you. We get caught up in little judgmental things, little things here and there that kind of bother us. This was said, this wasn't said. Russell moves his hands like this, wherever it is. I can't watch myself on video because I do that to myself. I will pull myself apart. That's why I can't watch it. I was telling Thomas that this Sunday. I said, I can't do it. I said, anytime I watch myself, I tear myself apart. I want to critique it. It doesn't do anything. It's no benefit. So, but if we thought less of our position and thought more of another person, then they become of import to us because they're important to Jesus. And I want you to remember that phrase, the least of these. And when you think of that phrase, think of yourself. And when you think of yourself as the least of these, you can then start thinking about other people as something that you would want to do something for. Maybe they're a least of these too. Just like I want love, maybe they want love. So when we come into the area of judging, that measure, it's going to be used against us. Don't use that measure against others. Spiritual things are different. We're talking about those stupid little judgment calls that we make all the time that don't benefit anybody. Those little things where we're just, oh my gosh, I can't believe. it's great that they're talking, but can we move it along, you know? Just get over it sometimes. Yeah, John.
I used to bring Shirley here, and she's like 4 foot. I mean, she's a little short lady. And she always had to sit in the back pew. Of course, when I went to go pick her up, she'd have to let the dog, and she'd have to go to the bathroom. And should she take her key, or where is her purse? And I mean, the time is going, I always went about 45 minutes early, because I knew she had to do all this stuff. And I would say, if you don't hurry up, Shirley, you're not gonna be able to sit in the back. Why not? And I said, because someone else is sitting there.
Yeah.
And she said, well, they can just move. And I would say, no, we're not playing that game. If you can't get going and get there on time, you're gonna have to sit somewhere else. Well, Jim will like this, because she would sit down, and then Jim and Kathy would come and sit right in front of her, and she said, I can't see. I said, well, then you need to move over. Well, can't he sit somewhere else? No, I said, he has to sit here. But it was this every single Sunday. It was like, she just couldn't get her act together. I mean, it was like, you don't need your purse. Well, you have a purse. And I said, well, I'm driving. But if you have a purse, I should have a purse. And I said, I can't take the walker, take you, take your purse, take my purse. Your purse needs to stay home. We go through all this, all right,
But that's an interesting, yeah, that's,
No, I mean, it was good, because I'm a patient person, but, I mean, it was just funny that she was determined that she was gonna sit that back seat,
yeah.
you know, and then Jim sat down and she couldn't see.
Well, I know that Jim and Kathy weren't doing that on purpose.
Yes.
But that's kind of the mood we get into, the mood set, especially when it comes to things like music. Right? My mom used to raise her hands in church when we were going to a Baptist church. They don't like that. Then eventually she was able to get a tambourine in the choir. Surprised that they let her do it, but they did. I mean, had to wear the robes and everything. Eventually I think they got away from the robes. Yeah, the choir had to wear robes, couldn't lift your hands, and say it like this. It's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay?
Get wrapped up.
You know. Anyone have anything else?
Getting back to the Pharisees and Jesus, they're always trying to trap them, right? But Jesus also was in a thing of trapping them. Number one, it probably blew their minds when he said, if you see me, you see God. The other one, when they were in the circle and he was bent down, and he said, anyone who has not sinned, cast the first stone. And the other one was with the tax collectors. So he was doing his thing to blow their minds too. And that's why they were so hateful, so against him, because he demonstrated how contrary he was to their stuff too.
And I think that shows meekness on the level that they weren't prepared for. Well, thank you.
Russell,
Yes.
can I share one more thing?
Sure.
Not necessarily scripture related, about the term catch-22. 1961 novel by Joseph Heller. Specifically, the rule is that a pilot can be grounded if they are deemed insane, but if they request to be grounded to avoid a dangerous control mission, that shows that they are making them ineligible for grounding.
Oh, that's, yeah.
They're not
That's a
insane.
catch-22?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
he called that a catch-22.
They're not insane if they ask.
Right, yeah.
No, we'll be right.
Now I start thinking about court cases. Oh gosh.
Aviation.
Thank you for that. I did not know that.
I say it all the time.
That's because you don't have any more room.
Get to the next section, I guess we'll wait till next one.
Yeah.
To
I
what?
really want to hear that.
Oh gosh.
That's why he's not.
I know.